I washed it and I can't find it. I need to get more than one. I need different colors. Eight different colors.
Okay, we're going live now. Smooth 98.1, love music, love life. You're most welcome to today's edition of Business Express 981. I am Mairo-Ese, and of course with me is Rotus. Morning, Rotus. How are you doing today?
Doing good, Dio. Good morning to you. Good to see you again. Good morning to all our listeners as well.
Good to be here today. Thank you very much indeed. All right, so on today's show, you can join the conversation. We're live on YouTube, so head on quickly to YouTube, youtube.com, search for Smooth 981 FM Lagos. And then you can send us a WhatsApp message. WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. Again, that's 0809 444 0981. Now, before I go ahead and we talk about today's conversation, Rotus, we were teased last week. I was off, but I obviously, in terms of listening to the news, that the federal government had lifted partially the ban on Twitter, and a number of people were excited. And then there was a statement to say, oh, no, we haven't. Some people even said that they were able to log in and check. What happened, Rotus?
Well, they've still are having conversations. They're still having conversations with Twitter, and
Okay.
conversations are ongoing. And we just, unfortunately, they're just slow. We just have a government that is slow, and they just don't seem to see the importance of how artisans that are online and sell goods online are faring. So the conversations are still ongoing. And look, let's be frank here. Everybody's got a VPN now. So people are using
No,
VPN.
speak for yourself, please.
Well, I'll speak for myself. That's what people are doing. So, if you follow the World Bank on Twitter, if you follow the IMF on Twitter, if you follow presidents, heads of states, financial officers, companies, any analyst that relies on up-to-date news needs to follow all these companies and international bodies to know what's going on. So, I mean, look at what happened with Guinea. That's our subject of our topic today. Right?
Yeah, that's the topic of our conversation. Cool.
Yeah, Twitter was where everybody got their information. So we'll wait to see what happens with the government and whenever those talks are completed.
All right. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to check that because, I mean, obviously I've been away, and I know that this is a big topic for you. So I wanted to hear what you thought about it. So now let's talk about the coup in Guinea. So another West African country, another coup. To be fair, though, we haven't heard, I mean, we haven't, unlike in the past where it was quite rampant, it's not been very common. At least I believe that many African countries have enjoyed democracy or at least a stable government for a while now. So tell us, I know you're going to give us a business perspective of the coup as well as an overview. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so actually it has been common, and it's not, I don't know what's going on. For the West African region, since August of 2020, we've had about 4 now. We've had 2 in Mali, 1 in Chad, and now in Guinea. So we had 4 in the space of a matter of months, and it suggests that there's just economic uncertainty in these regions. Guinea is a lesson. Also, even if you look at Nigeria, this recent 5% GDP growth that we had, it's a lesson in the fact that economic growth does not mean development for the common man. So, if you look at what happened in Guinea, Alpha Conde, first democratically elected president in 2010, since Guinea got its independence from France in 1958. It was elected under some very violent circumstances in 2015. And then he now changed the constitution to allow him to run for a 3rd term. Does that sound familiar to Nigerians? So, essentially you've got, a president here who has decided that he wants to stay for a longer period of time. Violent protests, people say that Guinea is marred by corruption and marred by, poverty. It's one of the poorest nations in the world. However, from an economic standpoint, I think we've got a couple of charts here. We've got their GDP per capita, and we've also got population growth versus GDP growth. Guinea is a resource-rich country. They displaced Australia. Okay, so here we have for our viewers, if you are watching on YouTube, This is their annual GDP growth and population growth. So let's go to GDP growth first.
Oh,
the previous one you had. So if you look at GDP growth, their GDP growth has outpaced their population growth. So they've maintained about 2.2%. I'm sticking with when President Alpha Conde was elected. So from 2010, 4.8% GDP growth, 2011, 5.6, 2012, 5.9. It fell to 3.9 in 2013, 2014, 2015 was at the 3% level. You can see it shoot up.
Yeah.
10.8% in 2016. He was re-elected in 2015. He started aggressively selling bauxite or bauxite. Bauxite is a mineral. I think it's a major source of aluminum. Again, Guinea displaced Australia as the main source of bauxite and aluminum to China. So China buys a lot of their, China is a large country, big demand for bauxite. So this is a country that with its mineral reserves, I think mineral growth in 2020 was about 20%, right? But the non-mineral sectors didn't grow as much. They shrank in 2020. But still, you can see 10.8% GDP growth. That's double-digit growth in 2016. While 2016, that was the year when Nigeria fell into recession, right? The first of two recessions under the Buhari administration. Then 10.8% growth in 2017. Then it fell in 2018 to 6.3%, 5.6% in 2019. And it still maintained about 5-6% growth despite the pandemic, right? So Guinea, you look at this chart here, and also they are maintain about 2%. Now let's look at GDP per capita. The previous under Alpha Conde, per capita GDP has risen from about $1,800 to about 2006, I believe, in 2020. 2,600. That's their per capita. If you take their GDP of and divide by the population. But the problem is that people on the streets don't feel it. They're not feeling this growth. And in fact, even to grow to $2,600 per person is actually is quite low. You know, again, Guinea is one of Africa's poorest nations. And so when the head of the special elite forces, I think his name is Muhammadu Damu or something, took over, he said it was endemic corruption and poverty that has caused them to take over the country. So in fact, recently they increased fuel prices. They also increased taxes in order to reduce their budget deficits. So, you know, the people there, I think the fuel increase caused protests, which is if you're in Nigeria and you support fuel subsidies, you will point, the Nigerian government will probably point to Guinea and say, see what happens when you raise fuel prices on people. But they've already been poor. They've been poor for quite a long time. So people like Yinka now, Yinka is, every time you throw out GDP numbers, Yinka says, well, as one of our listeners, for those that are wondering who he is, is that, what am I going to do with this GDP growth? So an example, when, you know, anyone who wants to get a quick refresher on how the economy is doing, they'll say Alpha Conde has done well in that per capita GDP has increased and GDP growth has outpaced population growth. But is it filtering down to the common man and woman? According to reports, there were people that were celebrating in the streets that he had been, you know, removed or whatever. They're still trying to confirm it. But so the key things here is that West African nations, again, and these are our neighbors, you know, they're close to us. Chad, Mali, Guinea, even Ivory Coast, there were some issues not too long ago. Countries are being, as far as their citizens, they're not growing, you know, and it's leading to a lot of unrest. You've got a lot of strong men that feel that they should stay in power for longer than they should. And economic growth does not necessarily transform to economic development. And also, like, when you look at President Buhari now, that just throwing out numbers saying he wants to raise 100 million people out of poverty. Is it by mouth that you will do that? So you know, it's troubling. It's very, very troubling. The UN has come out to talk about how they need to go back to a democratically elected regime. But you know, it's just, again, Guinea is really poor. Just is the emphasis here. Poor despite what we've seen in terms of GDP growth, and the West African region is just not stable right now.
All right. Thank you very much, Rotus. I'm trying to see now if we have responses to what you just shared with us, and like you mentioned, thank you for drawing that that parallel with other West African countries, especially Nigeria. Gbenga Kumi says, you know the ultimate irony about the coup in Guinea? Condé is a professor, and he went ahead to change constitution to suit his selfish purpose. Gbagbo of Cote d'Ivoire is also a professor. Is it in the blood of Africans? He says, one of the things I don't like about economics is that it is impersonal and doesn't capture reality as it affects the common man. See our GDP growth that officials are branding about. It's a shame.
And he has a point.
Yinka, the famous Yinka you've talked about, said, what exactly is the role of France in all of these? In their WhatsApp group with their former colonies, don't they advise them against this sit-tight syndrome? Cameroon is a perfect case study. How many French presidents has he met with? I think it's a francophone thing. Do you think so, Rotus?
I mean, a lot of people, France still holds a lot of sway over a number of those nations. So Yinka he raises a good point. But look, some of those nations, the CFA, the franc, is tied to the euro, and so their currencies have been stable. Inflation hasn't really hit them as hard as other nations. So some of them would love to stay anchored to the euro because of how it helps their exports, it keeps their currency strong, and so on. There are questions to be asked about France's involvements in that region, the colonial issues, and so on and so forth. It's a valid question.
All right. And then Ugo Collins says, it's baffling how African leaders hate distributing wealth equitably. Is it just African leaders? I think it's just because we have an enabling environment for that. Many people would like to hold on to power as long as possible. I mean, the Queen of England.
A great message from Ugo there. And back to what I'm saying, these are people, I think they feel that, even here in Nigeria, some people say that if Obasanjo hadn't had that beef with Atiku and he had handed over and to run, maybe we wouldn't have Buhari right now, or we wouldn't have had Goodluck Jonathan, and things might have turned out differently. But because of the issues that they had, this is how paths diverge, and who knows what would have happened. Some people say that because every time I reference Nigeria's telecommunications sector and how Obasanjo liberalized the sector, Obasanjo reformed pensions. As far as economic progress in this country, in my lifetime, I'm going to point to Obasanjo and say he was probably the best president that we had in terms of liberalizing our economy. But some people argue that Obasanjo should have run for a third term, and that if he had run for a third term, maybe things would have been better. For some reason, I don't know, some of these, Obasanjo, Gbagbo, Alpha Conde in Guinea, they tend to feel like, look, if I don't run for a third term, all my progress will be upside down. So I don't know, well, you're not the savior. It's not only you that has good economic. I don't support constitutional amendments to allow a president to run for longer than a particular term. And Nigeria was strong and they resisted Obasanjo and didn't allow it. But then when you look at what's happening elsewhere, we don't have enough time, man. It's just
absolutely not.
It's a whole case.
Hola Ologe says GDP growth without addressing inequality is a bad thing. So just I think just
South Africa. That is an excellent point. South Africa is the most industrialized, technically advanced nation on the African continent. They are building vaccine centers there. They have tech, but the inequality. Look at the riots that happened in South Africa recently. Inequality in South Africa is one of the highest in the world, despite how advanced that economy is. So that is an excellent point. Yeah,
so true. Lenin, final comment here says, average age of vehicles on the road, level of immigration of professionals are more realistic indices of standard of living. GDP and co are just academic, really, even though they do matter still.
Great point.
All right, thank you very much for your comments and contributions to the conversation this morning. A big thanks, Rotus, as well. We look forward to more news stories tomorrow, business news stories tomorrow, same time, 6:30 a.m. to 6:45 here on Smooth 98.1. Stay tuned here. We have bring you detailed analysis of today's national news stories at 7:30 during Freshly Pressed 981. In the meantime, enjoy some smooth music here on Smooth 98.1.
Express. Brought to you by Enter.
Thanks everyone for listening.